Tonight, this evening, we're going to focus on the events that's taking place in our country right now, the deception and the lies of which we're seeing take place. But we, which are of the light, as the Bible tells us, would not be deceived by these times, and we would know when the time was near. That's what Paul told us, when it was at hand. As I've shared with you many times before, our ability to spiritually discern matters is what leads us to the truth of them. It doesn't make any difference how educated, well organized the colleges or the media, whoever it is that's trying to communicate. It doesn't matter how intellectually sound they are. They cannot see and they cannot understand nor put their finger on what the true root of a problem is unless they have the ability to spiritually discern it. Other than that, as we've talked about many times before, they have to wait for the fruit to be born. And if you have to wait for the fruit to be born before you know what it is, well, then you're in a lot of trouble. We have to see at seed level what it is, at blossom level what it is. Once the tree brings forth its apples, everybody in the world knows that it's an apple tree at that point. Once the tree has to bear its fruit, and a murderer is a murderer, somebody's dead. Child molester, if you can't see it before it happens, somebody's molested. You've got to be able to discern what the root of a matter is, and only through God and a spiritual person and a spiritual nation will we have the ability to do so, as we've talked about the spiritual gifts a million times, being survival gifts. We cannot survive without them. Now, the word that kept repeating itself over and over and over in the Bible from Jesus, the apostles, was deception. Whenever you read direct statements or direct prophecies about the last days, what's going to happen, the word deception is always connected to it. Be not deceived, Jesus said. Paul said great deception would come. Many would depart from the faith. Many would give heed to false doctrines of devils. And so that's where we're at now. That's what the problem is in this country. The church has fallen away. The church is spiritually dead. Therefore, it has none of the gifts of the Spirit, and it cannot discern what's going on. What I want to do is share with you tonight what I know now to be the heart of the matter with the unrest, the rioting, and the, quote, Black Lives Matter ordeal is truly all about. And would ask why the media to this point has not mentioned what I'm going to share with you tonight. I dealt with it last week on the Sunday program. I'll let you hear the founder, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter say from her own mouth, "We are trained Marxists." Now, there's been much talk from white commentators and black commentators on the news as to why are there so many whites in the Black Lives Matters. You can see pictures of the gatherings and the gangs. 70 to 80% of them will be white. And many people has wondered, why is it a majority of white people in this Black Lives Matter movement? Why do they want to conquer, take over areas of a city with a mind to set up their own state, in fact, their own nation? It's been dissolved now in Seattle after the ignorant mayor went out and bowed down to these people and then said that it was going to just be a summer of love. Well, we've seen the summer of love turn violent. Who would have ever thought that? As I showed you last week, armed guards standing in, well, their Chaz city that they had, that they set up in Seattle. Again, it's been broke down now because the obvious took place. Violence took place. Let's look at this Black Lives Matter business for just a moment and see can we get to the root of it. Number one, as I said, there's large numbers of white people that's involved in this matter. Come to find out, these are trained Marxists. Now, that's not from me, that's not my opinion. That is what the leader of Black Lives Matter said herself. Let me just replay it for you again.
And Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are trained Marxists. We are trained Marxists.
Okay, so they are trained Marxists. Marxists are communist. Communism is the avowed enemy of this nation and to capitalism. It's what the Cold War was fought about. It's what endless hostilities remain over communism, our enemy, the enemy of capitalism, those who has pledged and vowed to destroy us without even firing a shot, they said. These are communists. Again, I want to emphasize, this is straight from the mouth of the co-founder of Black Lives Matters. They are trained Marxists. Now, all across the country, blacks are now looking at this Black Lives Matter ordeal and saying something's not right about this. Well, here's what's not right about it. Number one, it is not about Black Lives Matters. It's not about defending blacks. It's not about saving blacks' lives. It is about communism. Repetition, I'm sorry to repeat it again. The co-founder just said we are trained Marxists. Therefore, we are the trained enemies of the United States of America. The trained Marxist. Now, what has communism and the communists done now, associating themselves or even being the founders of what's called Black Lives Matters? Looting, burning down businesses in cities, white people's businesses, burning down black people's businesses. It makes them no difference whose business they burn down, nor who they hurt. The question simply to be asked, how in the world can you be for the well-being of a certain group of people and then burn their business down along with everybody else's business? How can you take their livelihood if you was concerned with their lives? These people are doing what communist has done and will continually do. This is why it's baffling to the mind, because deception, as we was warned of God, is what the heart of it is all about. Why are they doing what they're doing, and yet with a banner and with a flag saying Black Lives Matters, and now so many blacks in America scratching their head and saying something's not right about this? Here's the reason. The reason is that this is a communist organization. Communists are paying these people. Communist has raised these people. Communist has trained these people. These are infighters. What I mean by that is not outward attacks, but inward attacks upon a nation from communist, self-avowed communist. Now, they don't care anything about anybody. Anybody who has ever studied communism for one day knows this is the most brutal, dictatorial, murderous regime on the face of this earth. Hundreds, literally, hundreds of millions of their own people they have butchered and slaughtered and killed simply because those people don't disagree with them, or they don't see politically the way the communist sees things politically. They simply remove you. That's what they've always done. That's what you see being done now. Anyone who disagrees with them, anyone who argues with them, anyone who has a different point of view is not even to be heard. The communism runs through 98% of the media, the entire Democratic Party, and the majority of the school and the students from these colleges. As I've shared with you before, 98%, 99% of all spiritual warfare is fought in the lines of communication. These communists now rule the media, they rule Hollywood, they rule Nashville, they rule the newspaper industry, they rule all of these high-tech social media platforms. They rule it all. Therefore, they control communication. Nothing could be easier proved than the fact they can say anything they want to say. They're never removed from television. They're never censored, ever. We can say something that they just take wrong, and you will be taken off of the air immediately. You will be removed from your job immediately. You will be fired from your job. They rule the communication outlets. Therefore, in the spiritual war, they are victorious because they are the ones who gets their message out and will not in any way let the other message go out. They are the only ones doing the talking. This is what the problem is. It is communism. This is why blacks all across the nation is looking at it and saying something ain't right about this. It's because it's communism. Now, the Bible tells us, as I said earlier in the program, about the deceit. How that deception would be rampant in the last days. How that the deceiver, the Bible said, would wax worse and worse. In the book of Daniel, we were told that in that day, in those last days, knowledge would increase. Now, as the knowledge increases, the deceivers increases. As knowledge, means of technology, now the social medias, the media, the television, all of it now. We are now communicating on wholesale numbers through all of these medias, everybody, all this communication. And what happens whenever we do this is, again, up in the 90% range of all of the communication is evil, are deceived, are deceivers. So now with this ability to reach more and more and more people, fact is, with this ability to reach the entire world with your message, and you control the messaging, then of course the world is going to be deceived. And of course the deceivers will wax worse and worse because they got more to deceive with. The media and the social media platforms. So we see a degeneration. We see a people brain rotting because of lies and deceptions. Now, I've talked with you in times past about soul stealers. It's been one of the themes of my messages for a long time. There are those who seek to steal the soul. The soul of the human being is comprised of 4 components: the mind, the will, the intellect, and the emotions. The soul stealer wants to capture and conquer at least one of those, that he may then capture all of those. This is what communism has done from its beginning. It promises equality. It promises fairness. It promises to get rid of the filthy rich and to give everybody their piece of the pie. They did it in Russia, and once these loving souls got into power, they was eating caviar, drinking wine, and flying around the world on jets and living in mansions, while those people they was going to help, and then everybody else, was standing literally in 8-hour bread lines just to get bread. It happened in Venezuela. 20 years ago, Venezuela was just before becoming a first world nation, in the same category as the United States. Today they're eating garbage because socialist, communist took the place over. Now they are starving to death and cannot even get toilet paper. Just 20 years. This is what the communist has done. But it's always by soul stealing. By telling someone, we're going to make you better. We're going to give you an equal part. That's the scheme from the beginning, going all the way back to the beginning. That is their message. They steal then the soul. They get you emotionally involved in this, and so you go and you overthrow your system with no idea whatsoever about the system that you are going to replace, the system you overthrew. And so this communism comes in, and they butcher and they slaughter and they kill anyone who disagrees with them. They put you in 8-hour bread lines. They collapse your economy to the point that you can't even buy toilet paper, and they starve you to death. That is all that has ever happened. So what is the first move? The first move is to gain the emotions, that component of the human soul. Get you on their side. We're going to make things fair, square, and good for you. Get you then to fight against the system, to destroy the system. Then once they come into power, they go for step number 2. They control the media, they control the schools, they control the colleges. If churches are allowed to remain in communist countries, the churches must preach what the government tells them they can preach. So they move from stealing the emotion to the next component, the knowledge, the mind, the will, the intellect, and your emotions. Once they do that, they capture the mind, and they've got you. That's the plan. That's how it works. That's what they're doing. So what is Black Lives Matter and communism got to do with each other? Well, it's very simple. We know now that the founders of Black Lives Matter are communist. They're not for whites or blacks. They're for a structured type of government that gives them full power. The communists in Russia call these people that loot, burns, not useful idiots. That's what they called them. These are trained, unlearned, ignorant souls that has been now for 20 and 30 years through a college, through a school system, and through colleges that has been run and occupied by the government. So with television, with the colleges, with the school, we have now become government-trained children who are now adults, government-trained, and they're out burning and looting and destroying a system the government wanted destroyed because the government is controlled by communists. The only systemic power this country's ever known is the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the one that caused slavery. The Democratic Party is the one that caused the Civil War in this country. The Democratic Party is the ones that caused the civil rights of the 1960s. The Democrats are the ones that created the Ku Klux Klan, their muscle arm of intimidation. Once that blacks was given the right to vote, the Democratic Party created the Ku Klux Klan to be an intimidating factor, burning, looting, hanging, to intimidate blacks from going to the polls. Now that the voting rights came, of which the Democrats did not favor, they were against black voting rights. Once they saw they could not stop it, well, then they moved in different directions. They moved in with a welfare system that guaranteed perpetual poverty, that would give you just enough to eat, and then threaten the black man that, or the black woman, that if she got off of the welfare, they would starve her to death. People would starve her to death. The other side hated her and was after her. So they rewarded them for having babies, but punished them for having husbands. They rewarded them for getting on welfare, but they took the welfare away from them if they went to school. Anything that you do to attempt to better yourself, they take the assistance away from you. That's just the opposite of what it's supposed to be. Assist one while they get to a place they can provide for themselves, then take it away. But that's not the purpose of the welfare system established by Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was recorded saying when it passed, flying in from Texas on the airplane, this will keep the N-word voting Democrat for the next 200 years. That's what LBJ, the president, said that had this welfare bill passed. So if you attempt to do better in life, get married, you're punished. If you go to school, you get punished. If you get a job, you get punished. But if you have babies, you get more money. Have another baby, you get some more money. Have another baby, you get some more money. These people are well aware of the fact that the way to keep an individual and a group of people in poverty is to destroy the family unit. That is the only reason in the world someone would punish you for getting married. They know it is a two-parent home and family that makes the world click. These are deceivers and killers. It's all they've ever done. Again, they created the Klan for the purpose of intimidation. Now, who is it that stands behind all these people that you see rioting and looting, burning businesses, beating people, and killing people? The Democratic Party.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be. I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
Antifa, Black Lives Matters, is now their new arm of intimidation. They've always had one, always will. They're doing exactly what they've always done. Now, I asked you some questions last week, and things have come to light that manifest the truth of it this week. I asked you, as we saw the pictures of those communists calling themselves Black Lives Matters that built their little Chaz city, and you saw the armed guards, I asked you, as that city grows, who's going to be the government of it? And are they going to let white people or black people or yellow people come into their Chaz cities and speak their minds? I showed you and told you last week, absolutely not. So we find out now that there was killings, rapings, murders taking place in that 8-block area of this communist love zone that the mayor of Seattle said was just going to be a summer of love. 2 people got killed by those armed guards of Chaz City. You know, Black Lives Matters? 2 people got killed last week in their Chaz City by those armed guards. Guess what both of them was that got killed? They were black. Black Lives Matter, doing in their little 8-block city exactly what they condemned the police for doing, that gave them the right to build their 8-block city, burn people's buildings down, beat other people, and kill other people. And the only one in Chaz City that Black Lives Matters killed was 2 teenage blacks. But did CNN carry it? MSNBC carry it? None of these communist news organizations carried it, just like they don't carry the mass murdering of blacks in Chicago, because they could care less about a black man dying or a black child dying. They are communist. The co-founder of this organization, Black Lives Matter, said they are trained communists. The media are communist. The Democratic Party are communist. They don't care about nobody's life. And so this communist organization, by their own words, this communist organization simply took black and put it on its title. For what reason? The purpose of soul stealing. Why? Because we can do our communist bidding, we can do our communist takeover, and if we just tack Black Lives Matters on the end of it, then everyone in the nation, the politics, the government is afraid to touch it or stop us because Black Lives has been stamped on it, when they have nothing to do with the betterment of black lives, nothing. They are self-professed communists. Do you understand that? And whenever the communist gets rule of the entire nation, of your entire state, of the entire world, I promise you, it will not matter, sir, ma'am, what color you are. They will gun you down. They will shoot you. Not because you're resisting them, not because you're fighting them or shooting at them, but they will do it simply because you, white, black, yellow, or brown, simply do not have the right to think, speak, or talk unless they tell you you can. Just last week, a presidential candidate once again pulled from the old playbook and told black people these exact words: if you vote for Donald Trump, you ain't black.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
That's what Joe Biden said. I pointed out to you in many other programs through the years. Al Sharpton Jesse Jackson, has always said when you was black and when you wasn't, what you had to do to be black, and what if you did, you wasn't black. You see, anyone that's awake in their head ought to by now be tired of white Democrat politicians telling you when you black and when you ain't. People of your own leadership, the Jacksons and the Sharptons, informing you that if you cross the line with their thinking at all, that you ain't a black man. The writing is on the wall, brother. Open your eyes and see it. You have been linked up to, hooked to, the party that massacred you and the only one that ever did. And they bewitched you. And they deceived you. And my prayerful hopes are, and my prayer from the sincerity of my heart, is that all my brothers and sisters' eyes be opened up in the blessed name of the Lord Jesus to stop this madness. What you see and know in your heart is wrong with this so-called Black Lives Matters, who just killed in Chaz City 2 black teenagers. They're not Black Lives Matter. They are a communist organization that will kill us all. You make no mistake about that. This business must be stopped. It has to be stopped. And right now, you and me possesses the power to do it without a gun or without a bullet. We got the power to do it by voting these communist reprobates out of office. And it is high time we get on the same team and cleanse this country of this evil that is pure communism.
Though the darkest night shall fall, I will not fear at all. Though this battle rages on, in thy name I shall stand strong. Though friends and family depart, I will not let that steal my heart.